Alrighty, welcome to today's live streaming session. Super excited about this one, and just coming off a Twitter Spaces just now, and I was just taking a refresher. I think if you saw me in the prep there was a lot of drinking of water. I was talking so much, and I have a little bit of a sort of like a neck thing there. So cool. It looks like we are all systems go. Everything is looking great. I have a little bit of something on my headphones there. Just wiped it off. Cool. So happy New Year and welcome to the first live stream of 2022 here at Do Better UX. And if you are new here, welcome. Our mission here is to help designers and creatives around the world learn how to do the best at what they do and make a living from it. We teach design, career, and business skills that help you get ahead in your design career, grow your design career, start up your design career, take your design career to the next level, whichever way you want to put it. If you are joining us live, feel free to interact with us in the chat section. If you're watching this after the fact, feel free to do the same as well. Leave a comment, and whether it's a question, whether it's whatever it is, feel free to drop it in the comment section. And today we're doing things a little bit different. This is our first live recording for our Design Career podcast, Not a UX Designer. And the idea is that we hope that doing this will help us have a richer conversational experience with you guys out there, because when we're doing this live, you can send in your messages, you can interact with us in the chat section basically, and we can take in your comments, we can take in your questions, and we can answer those things on the fly. So I'm just gonna change the music and tone things down a little bit here, so that you can hear more of me and less of the intro noise as we get into the actual podcast recording. So this is actually a podcast recording that we are going to be doing live, and the idea is that this format can help us have a more richer conversational type of approach to creating the content that we're creating here at Do Better UX. So I will be monitoring the comments throughout the session, so feel free to say hello, tell us where you're joining us from, drop any questions that you might have, and we will answer them later on at the tail end of the live stream. So let's jump into today's session. All right, so welcome to Not a UX Designer, a podcast about building better user experiences. We talk about the processes and speak with the people that make it all happen. I am your host, Varma Henry. If we're just meeting, hello again. It is 2022 and you want to get into UX design or become better at being a UX designer, right? That is why you're listening to this show, maybe because of the title, or I don't know how you might have found it. So I want to get into the concept that things change, design trends come and go, new ones come every year. Technology influences so much of the behavior that we have. Every new year we need to keep up and adopt new skills and techniques as we adopt new ways of working and living and earning and learning, doing transactions online, etc., etc. It's super important for us to keep on adopting to that change. Now, in this podcast episode, I'll be sharing the top 5 things that I've learned in my design career over the past 15 years, and I hope that this will bring value to you and help you kickstart your design career or take your design career to the next level. If you're not already applying some of these concepts already, it's a definite thing that you need to do. These concepts don't only apply it into UX design. They're very broad, and I think that they will help you with your career as you go past your UX design days, your product design days, your consulting days, your product development days, whatever it is that you do. I'm just speaking to some of the things that I think that if you're watching this channel, you're probably interested in some of those things right there. So yeah, before we jump into the meaty part of the podcast, if you're just getting into UX design or uninterested in joining this space that we are in, please feel free to interact with our design community and get more content like this and connect with like-minded people over at dobetterux.com. Right now, our website is currently under construction, but you will be able to find all the links that are necessary to be able to interact with us. There's even a live chat on our website at the moment. So to stay up to date with our community, head over to dobetterux.com and you'll be able to find all the relative links that you need there to our events, to our podcasts, to our courses that are coming up and other things like that. Links are in the description below. Obviously, you will be watching this on YouTube since that's the only place that we're broadcasting it at the moment. But hopefully, if LinkedIn lets us start broadcasting, we might be doing these sessions on LinkedIn as well. But we'll see how that goes. All right, cool. So getting into today's podcast, I want to talk about 5 major concepts. And these are concepts that are around what I feel that I have learned over the past 10 years of my career, maybe realizing more of them over the past 5 years of my career. And I want to go through them. I spoke about them a little bit on a very high level when I was doing the Twitter Spaces earlier on. So if you want to follow us on Twitter Spaces for those type of pre-early engagement sessions, feel free to join us on our other platforms as well. You'll find us on LinkedIn, you'll find us on Twitter, you'll find us on Instagram. So yeah, join us and interact with us there. Getting into the topics, the first thing that I want to talk about is always be learning. Now, as I've said, most of these concepts are basically what I would call, general concepts, but I think they apply into so specifically into UX design career roles. From my experience over the past couple of years, over the past few years. If we're looking at 5 to 6 years as a few years, and it's there are things that you might listen to now and think maybe it's very general, but I think it's super important for us to be thinking about these things getting into 2022, and instead of sort of like focusing on sort of like a specific subject matter and becoming this UX design person or designer that is specifically focused on this specific subject. I think it's super important for us to understand that always learning, having that culture of always be learning is super important, because it allows us to evolve and adapt all the new things and sort of like embrace the things that are coming out, right, as new technologies. So let's get in a little bit more into this always be learning concept, right? So the first thing that I want to talk about under always be learning is that you need to explore new skills, not only the things that you're comfortable with, or to sort of like enhance the skills that you already have, but really be able to take a deep dive into the things that you've not been able to explore before in your career that you think that might be exciting to you, that you think that might be interesting to you. And that's the only way that you will know that these things are really interesting to you, because if you don't actually take the dive in and go in and do the things, then you won't know if they are interesting to you or not, right? So try and explore all the different skills that you might think that you remotely be interested in, and you will find that there is so much more that you will be interested in doing out there, other than just some of the simple things that you're doing currently in your role right now, or some of the simple things that you might be doing that you're really good at, that you're really comfortable at doing, but there's some things that you might think that you're not really comfortable at doing, and once you do those things, you might actually pick up that, what, this is something that I actually like doing. This is something that I actually want to do and pursue as an avenue in my UX design career, or my design career, or my creative career, or whatever it is. I found teaching as a very important part of my career. That's why I have, I do a lot of consulting work, but I think that there's a lot that I can gain from teaching other people. They say that, the teachers learn the most, because, as we are experiencing things, as we are going through our daily life, we look at the highlights and the things that we think will be the most valuable to help other people cut the curve, the learning curve, to get to where we are faster. So explore those new skills. Don't just, explore what you're good at and just practice what you're good at over and over again. That will actually help you expand your skill set, and also expand your sort of like means of interaction, the projects that you do, your interest, spark new interest in your life, and do different things and open new income streams in your life, or revenue streams in your life. So that is the first thing around always be learning. The other thing that I want to talk about, that I want to touch on around always be learning, is that, don't stick to the stuff that you already know, as I've already mentioned, right? Be a T-shaped person. Now, when we're talking about a T-shaped person, we're talking about somebody who is focused on one main thing, right? So if you're focused on UX design like myself, or yourself, if you're a designer or whatever it is, you might want to focus on that specific thing, but still leverage space to learn other things within your industry, within your fields, or within the things that surround the industry or the field that you work in, right? So being a T-shaped person is super important, because it allows you to know something really well, become a really good subject matter expert at that specific thing, but also it allows you to be dangerous enough to know the other information that you need to know around you. And I think that is super important, because you can become part of many conversations. You can open other things of avenues that you want to learn and develop in, as you find interest in sort of like the top part of the T, but you still be able to specialize in your field and do the things that you're really good at, and still be able to earn an income from that the most. And the last thing I want to talk about around always be learning is staying on top of trends, but not necessarily following them, right? Because I always think that there is always this concept of there's trends coming in and out every year. There's all of these things that are happening, and it almost seems crazy that we want to follow these trends and do what everybody else is doing. So I think it's important to know what trends there are and why those trends are there. But following them blindly is the worst thing that you can ever do. And the reason why that is because when you just follow something blindly, whether it's a good or a bad thing, you have no validation on why you are doing it, right? You're basically doing it because everybody else is doing it. You're not doing it because you enjoy it. You're not doing it because it's going to earn you more money. You're not doing it because of any particular reason. So find the reasons why you would follow a specific trend. If you want to follow any trend, if you think it would be beneficial to your specific workflow or your market or your industry or whatever where you're working in. But I think it's super important for us to take caution when it comes to just following whatever trends they are. So I think stay on top of trends, know what is happening, know where the technology is going, know where the design language is going, etc., etc. But what will really help you stand out is only using the things that you actually need. And I will talk about this in the next section that we're going into. I think it's actually a very good segue into the next section, around only follow and apply the things that you need and not everything else, right? You don't need to spend the time on everything else. The world is super bloated with all sorts of things out there. I think one of the main purposes around this channel is to help people navigate all the crazy information that you can find out there when it comes to becoming a UX designer, etc., etc. So stay on top of trends, use what you need to use, don't follow everything, have a really good reason why you're actually following something and not just lip around and follow everything that you see on the market. So I think that is super important. And as a segue to the next section, I'm just gonna pump up the music a little bit here because I think the jazz in the background is pretty good while I take some water. Alrighty, so we are back. So as we proceed to the next part of our conversation, I want to talk about the next thing, which is applying what you learn. I think this is a super important concept and a principle of our careers, not only as UX designers, but as any career really. There's so much dense information on the internet. There's so much vast information that we have access to now with the internet on our fingertips 24/7 next to us when we sleep, when we eat, when we're in the toilet. It's just crazy, right? That we've got so much power that the second that we have a question in our minds, we can just look it up on our phone and there we go. We have an answer. Google tells us what we want to know. And I think it's super important for us to understand that that is not necessarily beneficial to us, right? Like understanding everything is not necessarily the best thing to do, because what are you going to do with all that information? Do you use it on a daily basis? Is it information that actually helps you get your objectives met, right? That's the concept around it. Is thinking about it is why are you learning something, right? Why are you learning something? I want to learn this thing because it's trending. No, I don't think that's the reason why you want to be learning something. I think the reason why you want to be learning anything is that you need to apply it to a specific need or a problem that you have in your life at that specific moment, right? And if you don't need to apply it to that specific thing in your life, there's absolutely no need of learning that thing. It's actually just over it's a lot of cognitive load that you're putting amongst upon yourself that you actually don't need. So learn just the things that you need to apply and not everything else, right? You don't need everything else. And as you want to learn new things, as you want to apply new things, then you can sort of like get into those things and learn them on the fly. The beauty about the world that we're living in today is that we can literally learn anything on the fly, and literally you can find people like me. You can go onto platforms like Skillshare, not affiliated. You could go to Udemy or whatever it is that's out there, and you can learn all these things that help you get to where you want to be, and achieve that thing that you actually want to achieve. So I think it's super important that you understand that the knowledge is out there. There's tons of knowledge out there. It's just that when you learn something, learn the things that you need to apply, so that you don't get that cognitive load and you're confused as to what is it that you actually want to implement at that specific time. What is it that you're learning and why are you learning it, right? So I know it's a weird thing to say that you should not learn a lot of things, but only the things that you need to learn. But once you start practicing it, it kind of makes sense. So going into practice the skills that you want and build habits around them. So what am I trying to say about this? So again, learn the things that you want to learn and practice those things. Don't only learn them, you actually need to practice them, right? Like, theory is just not enough. Like, I myself, if I have not done something a couple of times, maybe even a few times, 3, 5, 6 times, that loop, that repetitive cycle actually creates, the ability for me to do that thing. Without that practice, it's almost impossible for me to just do that thing right the first time from theory only. Some things work fine in theory. Think about driving a car, right? Like, once you start doing it, you practice it every day, it becomes almost natural. But the first time that you drive it, you absolutely have the theory, but there's a world difference between the theory and actually driving, the car, actually like pressing the gears and, changing the gears and steering and, indicating and, putting on your wipers and things like that and stopping, right? So it's being practical, I think, is the best way to learn anything, especially in the days that we live in. It's so easy to jump on YouTube and watch a video and see that, this is something that you are, doing or saying or whatever it is. And the next thing that you do, let's say it's writing an email. I can teach you how to write an email right now. And you will watch the video. You think it's a cool concept. But if you actually don't go and apply that over the next 5 to 6 times that you're writing an email, you don't know if it works or not for you, right? You don't know if it's something that you want to adopt or not, right? So I think that is super important, right? And when it comes to, learning things, practicing is really important, because you can actually never grasp anything without practicing. And the best way that I've found of practicing anything is building habits around the things that I want to practice, right? So build the right environments of the things that I want to practice. Build habits around the things I want to practice. So every time I end a Zoom call with a client, I build a habit around opening up my email and sending them, a thank you message for the conversation and the time that they have gave me. Building those small habits gives me practice around, communication skills and being a better communicator. So practice the things and build habits around them, because once it becomes a habit, it becomes more of a natural thing that you actually doing, and it doesn't require you to think anymore, and then that skill really becomes something that is embedded in the way that you live, that you do things, that you work, that you serve the people that you serve. And the last part that I want to talk about is learn by doing, right? A lot of people might think that, learning by doing is for specific type of people. I think learning by doing is the shortest way for you to be able to actually acquire skill. Think about it. Why would you learn the theory of a specific thing when you can actually do the thing and just learn how to do it then? Why would you go through the rigor of trying to figure out what the theory is and then go in a practical environment and try and apply that theory, right? Whereas we could learn the practicality of doing the thing and the theory, well, that comes natural when you do the practice, right? So I think learning by doing, if you want to be a UX designer, if you want to become somebody who is a consultant, you want to become a product designer, a product manager, whatever it is, it's actually about working on projects, whether they're real life projects, whether they're sort of like made up artificial projects so that you can practice. It's really about doing the thing, right? Learn by doing. And I've found the best way to do this when you're trying to learn a new skill is pairing up with mentors or colleagues that, or other people that, are interested in that same thing that you are doing. This way, it will really help you learn things in real life projects, by the way, not sort of like the made up ones. So if you're pairing up with mentors and colleagues and other people who are interested in that field that you're working in that specific sort of like speciality in the field that you're working in, that will help you learn from other people through osmosis, or sort of like evaporation, right? As you interact with these people on a daily basis. So I think that is super important around applying what you learn. So, learning by doing is like almost the reverse of applying what you learn, but it's super cool because you actually just learn and do the things at the same time, right? So let me know what you think about some of the things that I've shared on the channel so far on this conversation as we were speaking. I think I've spoken about two main general concepts around learning. I want to move a little bit on now to communication. Now, if you follow the channel, if you follow the podcast, you have definitely heard a lot around communication, right? And I think communication is a master of everything when it comes to not only design work, not only mastering your career. I think communication is absolutely everything, right? And the first thing I want to talk about around communication is that as designers, as UX designers, product managers, what if you, it's super important for us not to just have the vocabulary of design. I know a lot of places, a lot of people at a lot of platforms, they say that we need to champion UX as UX designers. I think you might also have heard some of this conversation even here on some of our content at Do Better UX or Not a UX Designer as a podcast. But I think it's super important for us to understand that we should not just have design vocabulary, don't just speak design. We should be able to articulate ourselves to people who are not design literate, to people who don't know some of the terms and jargon and things that we speak, right? We should be able to articulate design concepts into layman's terms, into tech terms, into stakeholder terms, into executive terms, right? I think every one of those stakeholders that I mentioned and many more have their own approach to how they conversate, they transmit things across the board, they understand things, they articulate things between peers of the same caliber, right? And as designers, I think we need to be able to learn more than just the design vocabulary so that we are able to articulate ourselves in all these different calibers and sections that we find in a product environment, in a product company, whether we're speaking to a CEO, whether we're speaking to the chief financial officer, whether we're speaking to the CTO. We still need to be able to articulate and explain business concepts and design concepts in terms that other people understand and not just speak in design language, right? So I think that is the first thing that I wanted to speak around communication. I've seen a lot of designers fall into the trap of trying to teach stakeholders sort of like design jargon and terminology, and sort of like pioneer design in sort of like the way of doing things and articulating problems. A lot of companies have been, speaking in terms of jobs to be done, in terms of, user experience, this in user flows and other things like that. And I think these are conversations and terms that we just don't need to impose on other stakeholders in the conversation, other than we actually need to be able to translate the terminology that we have and concepts that we have is the things that they actually understand as the other stakeholders in the project, as we may have it. So moving on swiftly, the next thing I want to talk about around communication is staying on the pulse of the project and being responsive. I think more than anything, even if you type badly, like I'm a bad speller, I always give people the excuse, like, I'm a high school dropout, so I don't know how to spell well. But yeah, that's just a joke that I put around, which has got a lot of parts that are true. And moving on from that, I think, being responsive sort of caters around all of that stuff. If, your client or your stakeholders are communicating to you and just you being responsive, they know that you will give them feedback within, 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, all the time that they try to communicate with you. I think that is super important in creating trust, in creating a relationship with the people that you work with, and becoming a master communicator, because that is the thing that people are really looking for. They feel that, there is somebody who is paying attention, there's somebody who is responding to the requests as stakeholders on the project. And it's really about staying on the pulse and being responsive all the time. Even if you don't have the answer, it's a matter of, responding to the email and say, hi, I got this. I don't know what this is. I will speak to X and get back to you in the next X amount of time. And then that way people know that it has been caught. And, it just gives people a peace of mind when you're working with stakeholders, especially in this digital environment that you're working we're working in right now. And if you're somebody who is trying to establish what can I say, sort of like a freelance type of gig, even if you're not trying to establish a freelance career, right? I still think responsiveness is one of the highest things that any stakeholder, any customer will highly value in any situation, in any given situation out there possible. So I think those are some of the concepts around mastering communication. The last one that I want to give you before we move on, from the communication thing, is become a master communicator, an all-round written, spoken, whether you're presenting, whether you're facilitating. I think it's super important that we become comfortable with how we articulate ourselves. We become comfortable with how we articulate ourselves, whether it's in spoken language, whether we are helping engage a conversation, whether we are helping, write up something in a presentation, in an email, or whatever it is. I think it's one skill that is way overlooked, that, just paying attention to detail, not having silly spelling mistakes, or, just errors in punctuation or spacing and things like that. Small things like that can really take down the marks, can really put down the bar on you, right? Like, when you want to look professional, you don't want to let such small things get in the way, like spelling mistakes and punctuation mistakes, etc., etc. So be a well-rounded master communicator, whether you are speaking with your clients, whether you're writing an email, whether you're writing presentation text, whether it's product design that you are writing in, they call it UX writing, right? Whether it's facilitating, it's really important for you, to keep calm and collected, even if you're crumbling under the pressure and there's like people who are way above your pay grade, right, that you need to facilitate. You still need to be able to calm down, cool everybody down, and become the master communicator. So communication is everything. The communication is master of everything. Don't just speak design. Stay on the pulse of the project and become a master communicator, whether it's written, spoken, whether you're presenting or facilitating any project that you are on. All right, moving on swiftly to the fourth principle that I want to talk about today is go where you are treated best. Now, this one might feel a little bit as a privileged thing to say, but I think it's a super important thing that I would have wanted to have learned earlier on in my life. I wish that if I knew this earlier on in my life, I wouldn't have sort of kept up and, just dealt with bad bosses, bad clients, and other people that really abused my state of being and just wanting to help them, and the space that you are in as a service provider, right? I think it's so important for us to understand that with the skill set that you have, you will always find somebody who needs it, right? The pool might not be big, or there might be a lot of competition around there, but if you're genuine and honest and true to yourself, then you really have that unique advantage. You have that thing that helps you stand out. You have that thing that really sets you apart, right? And I think that is a super important concept, because when it comes to doing what you love, you don't want to just do it for money. You want to go to where people respect you, value your opinions, take in your input, right? And treat you best, right? And treat you best might come in many ways, treating you, physically, verbally, emotionally well, but as well as paying you best, right? As a web designer, you can work with, 5 different clients doing exactly the same thing, and you could literally charge each client in a different way, and you will find that there are people who value the work that you're doing more because it drives so much more in their business, and they realize that that is the value that it brings into their business. Some people just want a website because they want a website. They don't want a website because they know what it will actually do for their business. That's why if you ask them, what do you want their website to do, they like, we just want a website that tells people that we're online, right? And it speaks to a couple of things, right? So let me get into it, right? So do what you love, don't follow the money. The money will follow, right? If you try and follow the money, that's where you will end up being treated badly, being in places that you don't want to be. But if you do what you love, go to where you're treated best, you will have the opportunity to practice what you want to do, to really get into what you want to do and chew yourself into what you want to do, and be able to take yourself to a certain caliber without having to worry about the money. And then when you're there, the money will follow. I've seen this happening over my career. Most of my career, I was worried about making money, climbing up the ladder, trying to figure out what do I do to, get a bigger paycheck, etc., etc. And it dawned to me that, it's a very simple concept in life, in your career, that as you earn more skills that people want, the more you earn, or the better you earn, whichever way you want to put it. And the idea around that is so universal, and it's sort of like keeps on going on and on in life, which brings us to our next topic, but I'm not gonna go there quite as yet. But it keeps on going on and on in your life, that you get to a point that you figure out, okay, I actually know how to make money in my life, and now it's about figuring out how I want to make money, who I want to make money with, and how do I want to live my life, right? So do what you love, lead your life, live the life that you want to live, and get paid the amount of money that you want to get paid. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want to get paid. There is somebody out there, trust me, who will find value in what you do, right? It might not be everybody, it might not be, all the people who are on the hype of whatever is out there, but you will find the people that will follow you. You will find your people, right? So do what you love and the money will follow. Don't follow money and not do what you love. You'll be a miserable person, right? Don't work for free or work for idiots. Right? Don't work for free or work for idiots. I'm going to say that again. Don't work for free or work for idiots. Right? The reason why you're there, why they hired you, whenever telltales of a terrible client, of a bad client, they hire you, they want to tell you, this is the amount of money they want to give you. They're giving you exposure because you're a young designer, and they're gonna be basically telling you what to do throughout the process. And you're like, wait a minute, you hired me so that you don't pay me and you tell me what to do with my process. Like, if you knew what to do, you could have just done it yourself, right? So don't work for free. Reason number one. Reason why you should never work for free is that there's nothing like working for exposure. There's nothing like working for exposure, right? You can work to gain experience on certain projects, but if you're gonna work for free, work for equity, invest that time into something else that will reward you, that will actually pay you. Your skills are valuable whether you have done 20 successful projects in the market or you have done none, right? Your skills are still valuable. You have learned how to do certain things, how to design and develop great user experiences, and how to mock up stuff and how to bring things to life. Do not give away all of that for free. The investment that you put in that is way more than what you think. So partner up with people that actually value your skills and do the right thing to yourself. Do the right thing for yourself, right? Don't work for free. Don't work for people that tell you what to do. The reason why somebody hired you is because you are the expert, right? They went around looking for UX designers, logo makers, web designers, app designers, whatever it is that you do, product designers, product managers, whatever it is, right? You are the expert. That's why they hired you. So don't let them push you around. That is how you know that people don't value, and those are the telltale signs of terrible clients that will potentially not pay you down the line and just gives you a lot of work and stress and actually not launch any products that you have any work to show off in the end of the day. So don't do that to yourself. Don't work for free and don't work for idiots. Now, closing off, coming to the end of our session here. The last thing that I want to talk about is that you might be getting into UX design because you understand that it's something that might be high paying. It might be a very attractive job because it's digital and lucrative. Whatever the reasons might be, I don't think getting into UX design because it's something that will help you get to your career goals over the next year is sustainable, right? I want you to look at getting into your career in 2022 as a marathon and not a sprint. This is something that you will be doing for the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life. And if you are getting into it because of the hype, because it's trendy, it looks cool, but it's not necessarily the thing that you really want to do and the thing that you really enjoy, I would advise you not to. Rather, look for the thing that you really enjoy, that you want to spend your time and energy doing, that you're really passionate about. And that thing, if you do it really well, it will still give you the returns that you're looking for and that you might think that this career path might give you. But if this is something that you truly want to do, and if you're asked to not do it for any money, you would do it anyway, then you are in the right place. You must invest yourself into learning, always learn, evolve. You must invest yourself into communicating really well. You must invest in working with people who treat you the best, even if it's not necessarily mean it's the highest paycheck that you're going to get, but they value your work, they value what you do. That is what's important, as well as applying what you learn on the journey, right? So the end goal is doing what you want and living the life that you want to live, having your best life. That is what our careers are about. Our careers are not something that we do and we're miserable about until age of retiring, and we just want to stop doing that thing and move on with our lives and go fishing or whatever it is. It's something that we'll do even after retirement age. It's something that you would do even if you're not getting paid, but you should not work for free. So yeah, it takes a lifetime to figure out things. Most people don't have it figured out. I don't think I have it figured out. And don't feel the pressure to figure out things, right? Run your own race. Don't stay in a specific lane. Define your own lane, because it changes over the course of your life, right? You might be getting into UX design now. In the future, it might be broadcasting and teaching like myself. It might be something else. But give yourself time and opportunity and understanding that this is not a sprint. This is anything but a sprint. This is a marathon. This is a lifetime thing. This is something that you're gonna do until your last day, right? And you don't have to figure it out. It's not important, right? You will figure out certain things as you go along. But having said that, I hope that you have found value in some of the thoughts that I had in getting into 2022 as a UX designer, or just starting in a career that is. I might have gave some context that are really UX design specific, but some of the things that I spoke about here are really, really general concepts around careers. And if you found value in this conversation or the information that I've gave here, thank you so much for listening today. And if you enjoyed the episode, do consider subscribing to the podcast wherever you might be listening it to or watching, if you're watching on YouTube. And feel free to share this with somebody in your community or a whole community that you might be in. If you are interested in more content like this, join our community. Check out the website dobetterux.com for all our links. And for other live streaming sessions that we do, and more content and courses in UX design and product design. Until the next one, yours truly, Farma Henry. I hope you have a blessed one. Cheers.